All right, I want to welcome everybody to my law enforcement Valor Tactical Podcast. So I appreciate everybody's been watching my podcast either on Spotify or Apple, and also on my YouTube channel, and of course my TikTok. Sir, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you, Chief.
Appreciate what you're doing out there in law enforcement. So thank you, sir. Welcome.
Thank you,
sir. So like anything else, also Mike. I always have a little quick introduction who am I talking to here, and I know for all my viewers here, we got people that are watching local, state, national, even some international countries out there are watching the podcast, and people are interested in what we're doing down here in South Texas.
Right.
And I think it's important that we always advocate that there's great law enforcement here, and there's great law enforcement services here. So, quick introduction, your years of service. What transitioned you from law enforcement, from FAR PD to now what you're doing, which is probably one of the most important positions that you're going around the state helping law enforcement officers. So welcome, Mike.
Thanks, Chief. Mike Mata. I worked at FAR PD from 98 to 2019. And I got the opportunity to go to the school district after I left FAR PD to work there a couple of years. Then COVID happened, and it was when we initiated the police department at PSJ. It was a lot of challenges there.
Yeah.
But just to know that, once you retire doesn't mean that you no longer have those bad dreams, If you have bad dreams while you're working, and you guys are SWAT operators, so you guys go into a lot of different high-risk situations. But, I started working at the school district, and then I got offered this position with the Texas Law Enforcement Peer Network to begin the program as far as it's a statewide program aimed to reduce the suicides of law enforcement in the state of Texas. And at that point, I was the only person that, was going to be part of the network.
Yes.
And we were going to open it up to other agencies around the state. So right now we have 7 other regional directors from Odessa, Grapevine, Amarillo, Edinburgh. I'm out of Edinburgh right now. I do have a workstation there, and I'm thankful to Chief Ayala to allow me to be part of the Edinburgh PD's team, right? But we also have officers working in Central Texas that are regional directors in Lakeway and Belton, and then East Texas we have a chief, Chief Todd Hunter, who is part of East Texas. He's a regional director for that. So we have different levels of regional directors that with different experiences and different backgrounds, right? And when you first start something new that's state funded, you get half funded, right?
Yes,
and you have to make sure you get fully funded, and there's a lot of challenges and things like that. And we launched in 2022, and that year we had a very high number of suicides of law enforcement, and I think San Antonio PD had 7 suicides that year.
Wow.
And in total, it was like 19 suicides. So it was a lot of suicides of officers. And you're looking at numbers, right? Legislators look at numbers, but we look at families that are affected by a suicide, and it's the whole network was initiated probably between 2016, 2017, where it was brought into the legislators to, have a law to protect the officers when they're struggling with something. True. You as a former chief, you have your responsibility is your staff, your officers, your patrol officers, your investigators, even your rank, your rank and file officers, right? And your responsibility is to make sure that they're well equipped, they're trained, they're 100% when they come to work.
Yes, that's correct.
A lot of times they're not 100%. We come to work and we're 30%.
We've all been there,
Yeah, and a lot of us end up having those kind of issues at home where it affects our families, and we don't want to talk about it, or we have a fatal crash, and then it's the next call and go investigate that and go do this. It's not easy to be a cop, and a lot of you all know that. You live it on a daily basis, so you kind of understand that. But we do affect our families by the jobs that we do,
and especially, Mike, especially now. The current environment in law enforcement is putting a lot of pressure on all all cops from all agencies, from all levels,
federal, local, state, and county. All the agencies are affected right now. We're not we're not federal officers right now, but you got things that happen across the country that affect the officers everywhere you go. Whatever color you wear, you're still gonna get some pushback or some comments made by the public.
True,
It's like,
true.
and we get that all the time. Every time we go to a restaurant, what do you say? Oh, it wasn't me, sir. It's like that. So that time they joke around. We're like, oh, we'll take it, whatever.
Yeah, true.
But
true.
then you get all those other ones that we'll throw it at you, like whatever they throw out there. Just like sometimes we just let it go. And then there's other officers that will, if they're having a bad day, they're probably going to respond in a bad way.
Yeah, and they got to be resilient.
And
right?
it's understandable.
Yeah. What was the catalyst for the peer network to be established?
Suicides, the families were the ones that were affected. They reached out to their legislators. Both sides of the aisle. We had Senator Royce West, and then we had Senator Jay Nelson, who wrote the bill and everything else. And it was Senate Bill 64, which was signed into the 88th legislative session in 2021. But it was initiated back then, like 2016, 2015, but it was tabled because, they didn't have a structure for it. They didn't have, how it was going to be done. So in 2021, it's where they were going to have hubs around the state. And, that's where the regional directors are at. They're operating out of different police departments that, we're not employed by the police department. There's a few of them that are still police officers and they do this half-time, and they get compensated for their time. And then the other ones that are full-time, which is myself, that's all I do, right? University of North Texas, TCOL, pays University of North Texas of Dallas to oversee the program. And then we have a state director who's out of Dallas and our administrative assistant, our project coordinator also. So I'm an employee of UNT Dallas right now. But we do MOUs to allow us to be part of a police department. Initially, when we first started, it was in FAR.
Yes.
And after a couple of years, the contract, dissolved, and I transferred over to Edinburgh, and it was like it was a great transition because Edinburgh right now in the Valley is the only department that has a peer support team. So
the only one that has a peer support team, right? Out of all the agencies,
here in
local
the Valley.
agencies,
right?
So what do you think is the barrier that they might not have a peer support team?
Well, the thing is, a lot of departments may not have budgets for different things, and it really doesn't take much to have a peer support team. What a network is, it's more like like our network. We have the Lone Star Readiness app, so it's operated through an app. We have the officers scan the QR code. They go on through my TCO, and when they log in to get their PSR,
I've seen it.
It pops up with the TLEPM site, and then it'll give you the email and the passcode. So that's how they log in. They log in with the email and the passcode. So Senate Bill 64 provides you protection to your license, right? And it also gives you confidentiality. So through the app, you log in with a universal code for the peace officers, the jailers, and the dispatchers, and it's the same one for all three. And what it does is it provides that anonymity, right? And then once you're on the app, then you have access to, and I'll show it to you in a little bit. You have access to all the resources that are culturally competent. They understand law enforcement. They understand first responder, on the dynamics of a family, at home, the dynamics of, sometimes we end up getting divorced,
True.
And there's different challenges that officers face on a daily basis.
The law enforcement dynamics, family law enforcement officers, they go through a lot different than your regular families do, right? In different forms and different because of the dynamics of it.
Because of the trauma and the critical incidents that occur. We don't have an 8 to 5 job. We have jobs that may be 7 to 3 or 3 to 11, 11 to 7, or some shifts are 6 to 6 and the next shift 6 to 6. So it's a 12-hour shift. So some families are not, they try to do what they can, and then there's a lot of different resources that we provide, especially after the fact. During, like a critical incident, we'll make contact with their chief or their captain, whoever's whoever responds to our email or our phone call, right? But we've already established a lot of relationships with different departments around the state. And then for the departments that don't have peer support, well, we have the app. They have the app, so they can download that, right?
How can someone start a peer support? What if there's a chief out there that wants to start a peer support network in their department? They can contact you.
Yeah, they contact one. They can here in the Valley. My area is Del Rio to Beaumont and everything south.
Okay.
But they can contact their regional director. They get on our website and they can look at the regional director that's in their area. closest. And even then, we go to the Texas Police Chiefs Association conferences, the Texas Sheriff's conferences, and we go to a lot of different conferences to be there for the officers and the administrative staff to know that we actually exist. But does the department really need a peer support team? In all actuality, we do peer support without even knowing we're doing peer support, right? Without the title and all this stuff. It's like, hey, you know what? Somebody's got cancer in the department. What do they do? Burgers. They do, fundraisers. They go get GoFundMe.
True.
So we're out there already helping the community, right? That's why we all become police officers, to help the community.
Yes.
But you got to have passion to serve others, right? And you got to notice when somebody's going through some struggles, right? And they do, and I've talked to a lot of officers, and we, I have a little card that we hand out with the passcode and everything, so they don't have to go online to go look for it, right? And a lot of times, like, you may not need it, bro, but you talk to your guys that you work with, that you have lunch with or breakfast with and stuff, and you see that they're struggling. It's like, hey, you know what? Yeah. You may not want to tell me what's going on. I know something's going on with you. I work with you on a daily basis. Yeah. You're not yourself. Hey, reach out, man, know? And we don't judge. Like, I've been through a lot of stuff in my life and in my career that, I can understand where people are,
True.
They kind of like push it away.
Oh.
And, you make contact with a lot of officers, right? Yes. From all walks of life. A lot of the officers are tacticals, right?
Yeah.
But you also deal with the negotiators.
Yes.
And when I was in FAR, I was a negotiator.
Yes.
And, I have that passion to help others that are in crisis out in the community. Why would I not have that passion to help other officers,
True.
right?
True.
And, I can tell you that it's one of those things where officers are feeling more, not at ease, but they're starting to open up a bit.
Yeah.
Like,
the biggest barrier has been confidentiality.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that nobody
wants to... You know who you can tell.
Yeah, exactly right. So
that's going to be spreading it everywhere.
And I think that we're so used to, well, you know what, if I'm struggling, then I'm going to keep it to myself.
Right.
Because the job itself also forces you to see other people's problems, and you don't talk about it, but also you're able to manage that. Mm-hmm. But then when it comes down to our own personal problems, our own struggles, then we just keep it inside. And you're right here that sometimes, I'm glad that this peer network is developing more and more, is growing more and more, because if there's one program that needs to be in every police department, is this right here.
Right.
Every police department out there in Texas, all over the nation, they have to have a peer support program in their agencies. I remember in FAR PD many years ago, we had one, and then in San Juan, we started to create one, and we had one also. And basically was assigning different people to help out, but it all comes down to the fact that, what is the network offering the services, right? Mm-hmm. So, what exactly does a peer network offers? Peer network offers an officer that's struggling out there, and the job.
Well, it offers that accessibility. Before, you had to go look for a psychologist or a therapist. True. Or you had to go look for a chaplain. I don't know any chaplains. And when we were in FAR, we had, Father Richard that used to ride along with us. Yes. We had C.S. Hernandez that would ride along with us. Ms. Rios that would, they would come over. And I always, some guys are like, I don't want anybody riding with me, right? True. Hey, man, bring them over. For me, it was fun because it's like, hey, you know what? I get to talk to somebody. Yes. We're always one-man units, right? And if we weren't 25ing with somebody else, we were just lonely by ourselves going to patrol and all that stuff, right? True. So, it's good to have the chaplain around, and then we've introduced therapy dogs in different places, right?
I've seen that. I've seen a lot. Some departments, I think Westaco has one too.
Well, right? Westaco had one. He passed away, Shane. Okay. But we got Mission PD, Palmview. Palmview was able to get one for free from Canines for Warriors. Mm-hmm. And, caninesforwarriors.org is an organization out of Florida. They also have a satellite office in San Antonio. That offers station dogs. They're service dogs for wounded warriors, for military, right? Amputees and stuff like that. And they're service dogs. They're trained to serve those to help to do a service for that veteran, right? But some of those end up being where they're too energetic and stuff, and you have an amputee that can't, it ends up hurting them, right? So they convert them to station dogs. And the thing is that they offer it to every department. The department, all they have to do is apply, and it's not really a application we did that with Edinburgh PD. You know, we have Domino, that's a hypo dog that doesn't shed. So you have people that are allergic to, you know, pet hair, stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, the dog's a poodle and he doesn't shed. Palmview has that dog, one of their dogs too, from Canines for Warriors. And, you know, also another hypo dog. Mission PD has a poodle. Yeah. Shane.
Do they have to go through you to get those canines? Or
No, what they do is like, you know, I'll give them the website. They can log on and they can make contact with Greg Wells right there. But, you know, the thing is, it's a process. It takes time to request a dog. Like, hey, you know what? We don't always get poodles, or they don't always get poodles, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You have a dog, but, you know, and they're ready. Like they've provided dogs to New York Fire Department, you know, and it's good to have a dog. We have a chaplains group they're emergency chaplains, WSC, and they're on our app as well. Like, you know, you need to find somebody that's spiritual.
So every officer that logs into their TICO account, all these services are going to come out, which is that Texas Peer Network is going to come out, and they can
download the app.
Okay.
They can download the app on their phone, and I always tell everybody, look, just download the app. You may not need it. Somebody can. You just they have the app. You can just download it through MyTico, right? Okay. Gives you access to it. You can get it through the MyTico. You click on the link, and it'll take you to it, and then you can just download it with the QR code, right? Yeah. But you know, the thing is that once you download it, then you also have access to another peer, which be officers that have been trained through us on a 2-day. It's a TICO 6400 class. And it talks about how to be a peer, you know, talks about retirement, how to prepare yourself for a transition on retirement, because when you retire, it's different. It's a different animal.
You get detached from the reality of law enforcement.
And then you're like, what the heck?
Either you are relevant or irrelevant.
Right.
One of the two things, right?
After 6 months, nobody knows who you are.
I know, exactly.
You know, and that's the thing, right? And we teach them about different things. Also, all the resources that are in the area that we train. Sure. We've gone around the whole state to do that training. And, you know, we're evolving and adding more different types of training, like Smart 911. And then we've teamed up with Marcel Brunel he's from Farmers Branch, and he has a book called Dignity in Policing, right? And it talks about regulating your emotions. You know, we feel a lot of emotions, and we go through a lot of emotions, and sometimes we don't know how to describe them.
True.
And if you don't know how to describe an emotion, you're either punching a wall, or you're pushing somebody down, or you're choking somebody out, or you know, you're slapping somebody. It's like, what was that all about? It's like, I don't know. I have an emotion. I just don't know how to express it. I don't know how to talk about it, right? So it's also normalizing those emotions that, you know, after certain situations, whether it be a death of a partner in your career, or a death of a family member, or a suicide, you know, you're going to have so many emotions, right? You know, going to the hospital to make contact with the family of the officers that was in the ICU. You know, you have people in there with different emotions, right? And to be the helper, you got to be able to somewhat ask and bring those emotions out to where you're able to guide them through it, right? You know, so like any cop that's on our network is not a psychologist. They're not therapists, right? Yeah. It's a police officer. Like what we say, it's just a dumb cop, right? Yeah. But that dumb cop has been through a lot of life experiences. Yeah. True. That can relate, can understand what you're going through, and then guide you to a resource. Hey, there's a whole list of resources on our app. And, you know, aside from that, there's also a survey in there, self-surveys or self-assessments. And there's a survey in there, it's called the Hit and Bob. And that one's brought in by, I think, Boston University and Harvard University. And it's concussions, you know, through CTE, you know, traumatic brain injury. That there's a link between the symptoms of PTSD and neurological injuries through the head, that they kind of look similar. So if they're mistreating it as far as providing you medication instead of neurological types of treatment, then they're misdiagnosing it. And, you know, they've had some links for the suicide through that, right? Sure. It's more intense, right? But that survey asks a whole bunch of questions also, and then it's done confidentially, right? Yeah. So you're not, you know, you can do the self-assessment on your own. You can share it with somebody, or just copy the link and send it to your partners, right? And, you know, I can bring it out and send it to you, right? So you can have it. Sure. You can do that, and it'll tell you if you're an active law enforcement or you were former, if you were into combative sports, you know. A lot of our officers were, you know, football or MMA, jiu-jitsu, you know, a lot of different things. And then when we get involved with flashbangs, with the military when you're out there doing with grenades, IEDs, and stuff like that. There's a lot of suicides, right? So that study was done with military, with NFL football players as well. NFL has a hotline for their football players, right? We had that in the FAR with one of the, I'm not gonna say the football player, but he was pretty good when he was in his A game, right? But NFL calling the PD. We have a guy that's in crisis right now, and we need officers to go and check up on him, all that stuff. Wow. So they have that stuff as well. But suicide's a big thing.
Yeah. So when we talk about officer suicide, I know that it's hard to keep statistics, but what are we numbers we see across Texas? Since
in Texas, Texas was number one in 2022, right? We were number one, and then the numbers went down.
The highest rate of suicide.
Right,
Texas.
And it was like 19 or 20 on that year, and then in 2023, the numbers went down. The officers that died by suicide were down to 5.
And what were the demographics of it?
You're looking at officers between 15 to 20 years, right? And that year also, in 2022, there was several suicides with Border Patrol, right? Border Patrol has probably one of the largest peer support teams in the area. Okay. So I pretty much eat breakfast with Border Patrol on a daily basis when we, eat from here, right? Mm-hmm. And, they have programs as well within their agency. And they also provide those kind of services that they may need, right? Yes. And the thing is that the most important part is confidentiality. Yes. And also protection to your license, right?
True. Protection to your license means that the license won't get
suspended, terminated, or like that.
Because you're seeking help, right?
Right, because you're seeking help and you're going out for peer services.
I like the fact that TICO has accepted you guys as a partnership, and obviously to that extent, in which officers need to hear that. In order for an officer to, call someone, they have to make sure that they know they're going to secure the job somehow, because many of them are not going to come forward because that's the first thing that they're going to come across that, well, am I going to lose my job? Am I going to be placed on leave? Am I going to put on a desk duty? Am I going to be taken away, especially from a SWAT team, from a narcotics team,
operations, right?
From a gang team, stuff like that, K9, stuff like that. So I think those are the things that
things are evolving to where they're changing around like that. Federally, they're changing also in local departments as well. Mm-hmm. You still have the old school mentality that's like, you know what, just suck it up and keep on moving forward, right?
That's old school.
And that's always going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Even, there's the younger generation, and I'm sure you've seen it with young SWAT officers. A lot of them are more able to open up when they're struggling, when they're, hey, you know what, Chief, I'm going through something right now, whatever. I've noticed it when I was, working with FAR, and when I went to the school district and we were looking for officers to hire, and we had younger guys that are 21 years old, like, man, I started at 24, I was at 21. Does your mom know you're over here applying to be a cop? It's like,
I've seen a lot of officers out there, state troopers, local PD officers.
And they look young.
I mean, I told one of the kids the other day, aren't you like 16 or 17 years old, sir?
They look like an explorer.
They said, no, sir, I'm 22 years old. I mean, but they look young, and I think that officers should know, Mike, that there's no shame for coming forward and asking for help.
Of course not.
I think that's the first barrier.
But then we also have and you were in charge of the FTO program in FAR, right?
True.
So one of the things is, like, as an FTO, you have that responsibility and obligation to teach your guys good, right? Mm-hmm. And the way we were taught back, it's like, hey man, you don't know where your streets are at? You sit here, I'm going to go have lunch. Yeah. We leave your guy in the unit and you're just like, man, learning your maps and stuff. Where's the officer? Where's your rookie? Yeah. Oh, he's sitting in the car learning the streets.
Yeah. It's like, you make a complete stop right there. Okay, where we're at? I don't know.
You're dead. You're dead.
Yeah, you're in a struggle here, man. So
and things have changed. They evolved, and you look at it and it's like, man.
And we got to adapt to it.
Right, and you have to. You can't just stay stuck to one way of doing it forever, And I think that's why a lot of officers, when body cams came in and, you hear the conversations, it's before body cam and this is all this stuff. Yeah, all the stories are true. Everything you hear are all true, right? Yeah. But it was all before body cam, and then afterwards, it's like, well, they're all on all on video and everything like that. Yeah. But it's just a culture, Now, when we first started, it was mainly for police officers, and we would get the statistics from First Help. First Help is an organization, a nonprofit, that helps out family survivors from suicide, officers. Dispatchers, jail, firefighters, medics, And they've added like district attorneys and stuff like that now, right? Prosecutors. And but those numbers are gathered by them. They have 38 metrics in order for them to verify, confirm, and everything like that. So the suicides that we had, like January 1st, it was a suicide by an Ohio State trooper. And then January 2nd, we had a deputy from Orange County Sheriff's Office that died by suicide. The first 2 days of the year, we already had suicides. And we're like, you know, last year we had 13 that were in Texas. And then nationwide, we're at 102 suicides.
Wow.
So that doesn't even count the line of duty deaths, right? So line of duty deaths, we had the lowest number in years.
That's correct.
And it was 97. So we're like, we're under 100, we only had 97. Yes, but what about the 102 officers that died by suicide? Well, those don't count. Okay, why don't they count?
Yeah.
So there's a First Help has gotten, you know, money from different sponsors to erect a wall, right? To put a wall up there, a tribute wall for all the officers and first responders that died by suicide. And, you know, the families are the ones that get the help as far as guidance. Like, remember Concerns of Police Survivors?
Yes, I remember that.
The cops.
Yeah.
So they help out officers, you know, families that are survivors of line of duty deaths, right? And, you know, I know when Sergeant Garcia passed away, you know, it was very difficult for us to operate for a while because it was hard. You know, we lose one of our guys that we have lunch with, that we go hang out with, you know, and then he passes away, and it's like it just rocks the whole foundation of a department, you know. Correct. And it's man. So Concerns of Police Survivors has that, but then you have the National Law Enforcement Memorial that doesn't allow suicides on the wall. None.
They don't.
No. Wow. It has to be a line of duty death, and that's it. Yeah. Other than that, if you're died by suicide, so you still have that stigma of people saying, hey, you know what, like with chiefs or lieutenants or captains or whatever, that's fine, or captains that, you know what, the officer died, they took their own life. It's not our doing. It's not our fault. It's not our, you know.
He didn't die in the line of duty.
He didn't die in the line of duty, and he died without dignity. Well, they don't do the honors. They don't do any kind of services like that. Don't taps, nothing like that, right? So there's an order of procedures of the things through the honor guard. So that's changing also. You know, there's been other agencies where they do the minimum, but they still provide that honor. They still provide that legacy that, hey, you know what? You remember the person when they were alive, not the way they died, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And you know, there's still those things nationally that, well, you know, suicides could be considered a line of duty with all the traumas that they've experienced. Okay. There's documentation and stuff like that. Yeah. You do have a widow that's still working on getting her husband's death by suicide recognized as a line of duty because he was injured in the line of duty during a riot. You know, was struck with a flying brick and struck him in the head and got a concussion, and he was sent to a hospital and stuff like that. So there's documentation behind that and him going to the hospital. Yeah. And then having that connected to a service, right? Service connected, like the way they do with the military. Is all this stuff service connected? Well, that's what we're trying to get things like that done. It's informing the officers and their families. Hey, there's resources out there. You know, this is what you can get. Like for the family over in Corpus, if they go to the crime victims liaison at the department, they can probably apply for crime victims compensation, right?
Because crime being committed against the officer.
Right, and the thing is, they can get up to $65,000 minimum for that injury to help them when workman's comp stops.
Yes.
Right now we have officers that are working, you know, currently in the department that are injured, that are still out of off duty because of the injuries that they've sustained, and workman's comp denies a lot of that stuff. You know, TML denies a lot of different claims. You know, they denied some for me, and it's like, you know what, we put our effort, we go and we do what we can do to serve our communities, to serve the department well. We get injured, and I was like, well, that it's not qualified or doesn't qualify.
And not only that, that's stressful.
It is. It's more stress.
It's more stress because exactly right.
You know, and if you know, you have officers that are, you know, they're chronic, they're ill, they have some illnesses. You have some other officers that have gotten cancer while they're working, and it's like they still keep them until, you know, they pass away. And that's just to keep them on an insurance and stuff like that, because to get insurance off duty is very difficult.
Oh yeah, to be self-insured is not as easy as people might think.
Right.
Yeah, that's correct.
And you as a business owner, it makes it harder for you to get an insurance, right? So you can understand, you can relate to that, right?
So not only that, now once you said that, so where does the law enforcement peer network get its funding to continue?
It's from the state.
From the state.
We're part of the state budget. But because we were for police first, and then we've added dispatchers in jail. Fire needed a peer support. They needed protections. They didn't have protections. So this past year, legislative session, they enacted Senate Bill 35, which also provides those protections for fire and EMS. So they'll be having their own network. So they can get something similar to ours, or they're going to create it their own. We always tell them, hey man, we're here. We already did the legwork. It's been a lot of work, but we did it, and it's something that they can work off of. We have everything blue because we're cops, right?
Yeah.
All you got to do is just change the color, and that's it. It's red.
True.
And we have pretty much the same kind of resources that will serve all first responders. So it's not, it's nothing that's not doable.
Yeah. So, like an organization, when we turn an organization, how can I help this network?
Well, you can promote it. I'll give you some flyers and stuff like that. But just letting them know, being part of the class. Or you can invite us, whenever you have another, 40-hour basic training.
I am. As a matter of fact, I want to make it a point that I want you to show up to my classes, and
talk to them,
And I got some even classes SWAT and some other classes I have. So I mean, it's something that every police officer should hear about.
Right. Once you download the app, Chief, you'll look at it. You can request a peer to talk to you, and within 10, 15 seconds, you'll get that request answered by another officer that's been through that training. You can do the self-assessment. Also, after a critical incident, it's been shown that if you play like Tetris or that kind of game, that you're processing it, because it takes time to process certain different things.
Sure.
Talking to one of the guys that was part of that shooting, he's part of the peer support team. But then also his really good friend was injured.
One of the officers injured.
Right, and another guy that was part of the peer support team that I normally call from CCPD. It's like, hey Joe, where you at? And you're not calling me. Are you okay? And there's nothing. Later on the following morning, he's like, hey man, I was struck in the arm. I was like, oh my goodness. It's like, and then texting the chief, Chief Marco. It's like, hey, that guy's a great guy, and he.
I saw him in an interview yesterday.
Yeah, he really cares.
He's a straightforward dude that cares.
He does.
Chief that cares about his men and women. I mean, I saw that
a couple years ago.
Very obvious. It was very obvious.
A couple of years ago, he lost a couple of his officers. And it was like within a month he had lost 2 officers, and it was hard on him. And we reached out to our executive directors and said, hey, you know what? Chief needs help, man. Send him somebody, call somebody for him. So they have Texas police chiefs. All the Texas police chiefs can get together on their website and reach out to each other whenever they have questions and stuff like that. But like I said, being one of our regional directors, Todd Hunter, he's the chief of Kilgore.
I know
and
him.
He's very passionate.
Todd Hunter, when I was chief in San Juan. I met he was an executive board.
Right.
Yeah.
And
he's a past president of the Police Chiefs Association.
Correct.
Yeah.
And he's got that passion. And in order for you to do this kind of work, you got to have a passion. You can't just fake passion.
Of course.
And people that are very passionate of what they do, right?
True.
It's like, look, you got Marty.
Yeah.
Remember Marty Vilma?
Yeah.
Man, since he was an officer in FAR, he just wanted to work with dogs and train them, and he loved it.
Look at him now.
Right, and look at he's got his own business, right?
Yes.
And that's something that it takes a lot of passion to do. Like for me, I've always wanted to help officers because I struggled and I went through a lot of stuff, and I reached out to another officer that helped me out and guided me through those challenges that I had. And it's like, when you see people that are going through suicidal ideation and stuff, they're not themselves.
Yeah.
Right. They truly aren't themselves. And people don't recognize them. It's like, I don't know this guy, man, And then you look at officers that are going through struggles at home, right, with their wives or their spouses. The spouses may have told them, hey, you know what, you're not the same guy I married. You've changed.
That's very true.
You've changed and you're very different, and even your own families don't recognize you. So, and I've told people in different classes, like if you hear those words, which I've heard before, take heed on, heed on that word. Yeah, it's a red flag for you to start looking. It's like, okay, why am I hearing this?
Yes.
What is this that you think I'm different? I know I'm different. It's you, not me.
The minute that you start treating your family as citizens, that's a red flag.
That is.
Because now you're taking your work home. And it's affecting your family. I think that
and it's hard to separate it.
Yeah, and the people that are not going to affect their emotions is your family. Your family is going to pick you out and say, you know what, what's going on?
Right.
You know, and I think that's.
And they see through bullshit.
Oh yeah. They understand that you're not going to BS them. You're not going to, create all this, fog there, and try to assure that the fact that what you're going through is all fake. Because I mean, we all been there, right?
Yeah.
Even myself, at one point I hit rock bottom in some of my career in my lifetime, right? But how do I survive? Again, talking to my brother, talking to my friends, family. So again, and I think that back then there was no network,
right?
FYI, so we all been there. But I think that now there's a network. I think that officers out there should take advantage of it.
Right.
I mean, and I've seen a lot of hard disciplined guys that I know that they're struggling, because I see them all the time in my tactical side when I teach, I train a lot of the officers here.
And they're hard. They're
hard. They're hard-headed, right? But not only that, I know they're struggling, and I'm trying to say, hey, man, everything went right with you? Yeah. Well, I'm going through, nothing, no shame of going through problems at home. No shame of going through financial problems. No shame of that, but reach out to somebody. And I think that's that's great that what you're doing, Mike. That's awesome that you guys are doing all this around the state.
And there's a lot of help down here too. There's a lot of local, Nueva Luz Foundation, and you have the chaplains that, when there's an officer involved shooting and that's happened in this area, I'm sure that a lot of times the departments will contact like Dr. Villanueva, and she'll come out and she'll,
And she's with who?
She's with Nueva Luz Foundation.
I got you.
And
they provide services, counseling services,
and they're free. And they're free. She provides them to all first responders that are free, and it's helped out because some officers don't have money. They're having financial problems already,
and they didn't even check by check.
Right. So it's like it's not. It's not there's some departments here in this area that the officers are making really good salary, even though you guys are gonna say whatever.
There's no such thing as a good salary down here in South Texas, FYI, right?
We're not Plano.
We're not upstate, and we're just getting paid. Starting salary is $100,000. Right here, starting salary from some of our local PDs down here is about $30,000, $40,000. We're not there yet, but I think that they got the heart.
Right.
They got the heart and the drive to be cops locally here. So
and we do have officers that are down here, and there's like, man, where does everybody go?
Yeah.
Where have you seen officers go to? They go state, they go federal.
Yeah, state,
right?
Federal, yeah.
And it's hard to keep good officers in a department when the morale is low. And it's like, where do you go that's like the best morale? You don't find a department with a great morale.
Yeah.
And it's not all on the chief. It's really not.
Yeah.
It's not all on the unions. It's not all on the officers themselves. It's a lot of different things that make that problem.
Yeah. And I see that, and we lived it, right?
Yeah, of course.
We say, there's always a low morale in the department. Well,
we'll make the best of it.
We'll make, work with what you have, and I think that, not everybody can be chiefs.
Right.
Meaning that. If you work for the department, you cannot be the chief and be a patrol officer.
Chief.
Yeah, you cannot be you cannot be the chief and the patrol officer and the investigator, the lieutenant.
No thanks.
So I think that we got a lot of great chiefs here in the Rio Grande Valley, and but also a lot of great officers here. And I think that having networks like this, having services like this, because it's going to happen.
Right.
It's going to happen that and that someone's going to go through some struggles here, and I think that. What we need to do is reach out and lend a hand to them, say, and let them know, hey, we're here for you. And I think that's, I've always believed in this. I think that you should have, a phone number of a person, family member that you can reach out quickly and connect with.
Right.
And then you should have a secondary phone number that you can reach out. Right. And someone can listen to you that probably does not know anything who you are, but will listen.
Right.
And I think that's you guys,
and we listen, like as a negotiator, the most of the things, like we would go to a call out and you'd hear some of the guys from SWAT, hey man, tell them the magic words. And most of the time our magic word was, hey, I'm here to serve, what do you need?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, who are you? Oh, I'm Mike. Whenever, I'm negotiator this from this far, I'm just Mike, man.
The call,
I'm just Mike, man. What do you want to talk about? What's going on? Why are we here today? And a lot of times it's like, well, I don't know. Why don't you guys just leave? I'm like, we'll leave, but let me know what's going on. What's on your side? What's on your mind? You know, and it's just opening that conversation, you know, and it doesn't take much to open up a conversation with anybody in law enforcement. We can sit down in a restaurant, and last time, you know, we would have some people, some of the residents or the community members that come over and sit down and like, hey, can I take a seat? I'm like, sure. You know, I'm by myself.
The seat is yours. It has your name on it.
As long as you don't mind me eating, I'm eating, man. I'm having my lunch, but go ahead, take a seat.
And that is the attitude.
Yeah.
That is the attitude.
And that's all it is.
Yeah,
it's
because
opening it up.
There's a lot of people also that are afraid of approaching law enforcement, but I think that's the attitude. Yeah, take a seat. Yeah, it has your name. Take a seat.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the attitude we should take, and I think that's what we should be advocating there, and I think that we're getting there.
Yeah.
You know, we're getting there, and yeah. So walk me through here. An officer is struggling out there right now. What's the first step that they need to do?
Call. Get a hold of the app, download it, and you know, get on the peer request. You put on a peer request, put down which region. You don't have to be from your region. You don't have to look through South region. South region is from Del Rio to Beaumont and everything south. You know, and then you got region 2 and you got West B and you have West Texas. You could just pick whatever region, click on there, and then put call or text, and then put the name that you choose. You want to put. You want to.
So you can
Papi
come
Chulo.
up with a pseudonym name.
Yeah, you could put Papi Chulo if you want. You know,
Yeah, and
like
there is a
sexy
Papi
beat.
Chulo. Yeah, it has to be. Yeah,
we know Papi Chulo.
Yeah, we know.
We know a bunch of
chulos. We do. Right?
we do know chulos.
We do, yeah.
But the thing is that you put that down in there, and then you put a little synopsis. Hey, you know what? I just want to vent, or I've had a really bad call, or had a baby death. You know, a lot of those calls that we have, you may not be triggered right away. It may be later on, weeks later. You know, and even if you don't get triggered by something major, it's going to be like, oh, what's wrong with me? I didn't get triggered. You know, we've been so ingrained in masking our emotions, not reacting to anything because we're working and we're in work mode, and we're just, you know, there. And then we do the joking, and then we have video cameras, you know, and we got JJ Ramos out there, you know, and Univision over there trying to, hey, aquí estoy con todos los policías, and we're cracking up, making jokes.
Watching, man. We know JJ.
We know JJ's watching, right?
Yeah, he's always out there. Hey, he will follow me and say, hey, Chief, what's going on over there, man? I see something.
Yeah.
Hey, the media out there is great people out here
but
in the
they are.
Valley, so I mean.
So then they would catch us a lot of times cracking up or whatever, and then we get the phone call from the chief, hey, Mike, can I have a minute in the office? I'm like, oh, what did I do now? Right? Yeah. And you go to the office, like, hey, Mike, we saw that you were laughing, and what happened, man? It's like, Chief, it was a bad call. It was a bad, you know, rollover, fatality. It's like, hey, man, it's bad. It's horrific, you know. And a lot of
times, not that you're laughing at.
No, not at all. We're trying to joke around so we can, you know, the smells, you can taste all the blood and everything else, you know. Yeah. So there's a lot of different things that are triggering us that we trigger. There's EMDR that can be a modality for somebody that guide them through that process, and they'll be able to, you know, if you've never done EMDR, it's a process. It's eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, right?
Yeah, I know a lot of the guys that I train with have done that.
Right, and they call it voodoo stuff. It's like, this is voodoo shit, right? But it works, and it keeps them from having negative triggers, right?
That's exactly right.
Because when we have triggers,
it desensitizes them from those negative behaviors.
Right, and a lot of those times we've gone to those calls. You know, I remember telling my wife, we're driving back from San Antonio, and it was late. And it was like a foggy evening, and the climate was just the same as it triggered me a fatal crash that we had on Olana. And I'm like, oh man, you know, and we're coming back from San Antonio, hitting Owasso, and I was like, man, so I turned off on Olana. And I took me to one of the fatal crashes that we had there near in between the Sugar and Cage.
Yes.
And I go, oh, we had a fatal crash here. It was a tractor trailer, and then, you know, all this other stuff happened. And I was like, okay. And then, oh, Sugar and Olana, we had a major accident, another one, and then this one, and this one. Then I started going back home. Just to get home, it was probably like 20 fatalities that we've had within my career that have responded from just going from Olana and Cage to Olana and Jackson all the way south to Business 83. I was like, the guy that hanged himself by suicide or by, you know, and as you can start remembering all those things. Yeah. And you never think about them, but you start thinking about one and another, another. It doesn't go away. Yeah. You're always you can't unsee a lot of those things.
Sure. So what do you say to that officer that's also right now, you know, contemplating and calling you out because he might feel that y'all gonna make a phone call to his chief or his lieutenant or captain or call the internal affairs because he's struggling. What do you say to that?
No, the thing is that it's you got confidentiality, right? One of those things we're not going to know who you are, right?
Yeah.
Unless you want to release your name, that's fine. But our thing is we're not here to judge you. We're not here to criticize you. We're not here to report you on anything. You're going through something. As long as you're not suicidal or homicidal, you're okay, right?
Yeah.
You're not involved in a crime, then unless your attorney says, hey, you know what, you got to do it. There's 5 different things that will keep a conversation from being confidential, which is those, right? Homicidal, suicidal, and if I say, hey, you know what, I can't deal, this is too much for me, I'm going to transfer you over to a peer or to a mental health professional.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to have to give them a little bit of synopsis. That's where your confidentiality goes away, but it's within that, it's with your permission, right?
Yeah.
The other one is if an attorney says, hey, you know what, you need to be disclosed.
So yeah, we're back on the Valor Tactical Podcast, talking to Mike Mata here from the Texas Law Enforcement and that peer group. So, hey Mike, a few last words for my viewers here. What do you recommend here? What are the final thoughts on our conversation on this part, very important network that you guys have going on in Texas for prevention of law enforcement suicide?
Well, I appreciate you allowing me to come over and talk to you about it, right? I know we've always crossed paths, and it's always been one of those things. You're coming in, I'm leaving, and I say, hey, it's good to see you, man. But it's important. It's important that we understand that there are resources out there for our officers and for our jail staff and for our dispatchers. Senate Bill 35 came in this year in the legislative session to allow fire and EMS to be on a network. That one will be probably run by Texas Department or Texas Division of Emergency Management, and they're still working on getting the logistics on that network. Hopefully, they reach out to us and let us know that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. And it's a mobile app that's actually working really well. It's run by Cortigo, and it's not a cheap app, so it's actually helping. It's very intense to get things going in there, right? So a lot of the resources that we have on there have been vetted, and just know that there are resources out there. There's no excuse for any more suicides by law enforcement officers. Since they were taking out numbers, and since they've collected those numbers, which are not 100%, over almost 1,287 was the last count that I had at the end of the year, right? 1,287 officers. That's just police officers.
That's a lot.
And that's not even counting the fire, not counting the rest of the first responders. Rest of the first responders was like 360 something, which the difference between officers and the rest of the first responders, last night I took my grandson to the fire department, and there's 6 firefighters in their firehouse, and the rest were out in the fire that they were battling in South Far. And there's a difference between fire service and police. One, because after a fire, everybody gets together and they discuss it, they talk about it, they let it out, they're processing it. They're processing it together. Hey, that was a bad call. The fire. Remember back in 97 or 96, I was a volunteer firefighter. We had lost those 4 children or 5 children in the house fire.
I remember that.
After that fire, we were at the firehouse, and they brought in Father Brown from St. Margaret's, and they brought in, of course, food for everybody. But everybody was in tears, and everybody was blaming themselves. Like, we do all these fire things at the schools, and why did they just they hid in the closet and all this stuff. That's hard. It's hard to take those calls. And as cops, when we take those calls.
Mike, I want to thank you for coming by, brother.
Appreciate you,
One
Chief.
day, great network, great opportunity for officers to seek out help, man. I want to thank you. Keep on doing what you're doing. You found your my
passion.
Your passion there, and it obviously shows on you.
I appreciate it.
So whatever I can do on my side, keep on doing here, sharing with all my public out there. The Texas Law Enforcement Peer Network is real out there. It's available. Seek out for it. Individuals like Mike Mata here, experienced law enforcement officers, gone through what you're going through right now, brother. If you guys need anything out there, any law enforcement officer out there needs any help, right? Reach out. Though it's not shameful to reach out for help, do it now.